Yes, guys, welcome back to flatcapeurotalk here, and we are going to be discussing all the Spurs transfer news and then discussing what still needs to be done. We were going to have Darius on this one, just unfortunately, just last kind of minute complications couldn't be able to join us, but we still have Kieran, who everybody really did love from the transfer discussions so far. Kieran from Let's Talk Spurs. Anything non-football related that's on your mind? How you doing? Everything all good with you?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, obviously, just finished work, so quick.
Yeah,
Finish work, wrap up
nothing's
everything, get
happened
straight on,
since then.
get straight on the show. But yeah, I'm good. I'm good, and nice to be a reoccurring feature
Yeah.
on the show lately.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're going to have to get used to your face. They're going to have to get used to it. But let's welcome in a bit of the Flat Cap Army. And we have Colin Turner in the house saying, what's the other bids for Bissouma? I think it's being sealed, my man. I think it's just that perhaps, the price maybe has increased. I think it's now gone up to like 30 million and like total add-ons or something like that, Colin. But
Yeah,
Bissouma is ours, my man. Don't you worry.
I
Bissouma is
seen
ours.
I seen reports saying it was 26 million euros. But there's add-ons. The fee apparently has been agreed with Brighton, but it's now
Hmm.
agreeing a fee with Bassoon and his agents and getting a medical done is the only
All that
thing.
extra stuff, all those
Yeah.
extra add-ons that maybe don't get, kind of talked about before. Exactly. There you are, Colin. Amon Arnasia, I knew you put in some comments right in like honestly, right as the stream was put on, like eight 8 hours ago or something. But for some reason, StreamYard just doesn't let me see the comments now. Maybe they expired. But Amon Arnasia, one of the first ones ever on this channel. Really good to see you, my man. Thank you for putting in the comments. Catman Jess said, big up Statman Jack. Big up the Flat Cap Army. Thank you very much, Catman. Good to see you, my man. Ashley saying Tottenham must sign Tolisso. That's actually an interesting shout and probably a free midfielder that is up for grabs. But we actually went for something I honestly feel like a whole lot better in the case of Bissouma. But Tolisso, I mean, I don't know, Kieran, is that like a missed opportunity or something that you just never saw happening? Did you think we were ever going to get Tolisso? Any opinions on the player?
So we spoke about Tolisso last summer transfer window. Obviously he'd had a season of injury where he wasn't kind of really playing at Bayern. And it
Hmm.
was like, okay, well, deal's kind of creeping up to an end now. Maybe he's a player we should look at a cheap deal. Whereas now it's kind of like, okay, he had that injury season. Now he's had another season where it's not being great. It's like, I'd rather just go for Basuma. If we got to
Yeah.
Liso,
Yeah.
on a free, cheap wages, then that's a different story. But I don't think that would be the
Yeah.
case. I think he'd
Yeah.
still, demand quite high wages, which, yeah, with his injury record as well, I don't know. We haven't really seen it
Yeah.
from him in the last couple of years. But before he was at Bayern, if we
During
got
his
that
days
version of him, then I'd be saying, yeah, snap him up.
yeah.
But yeah, it's a bit of a different situation now.
Maybe during the Nuno days, Ashley. Maybe during the Nuno days, I'd take Tolisso any day of the week. And actually, way back in the day, Tolisso, when he was at Lyon, was kind of tipped to be one of the best midfielders, sort of like of his generation and like of the future. And then just all those injuries that Kieran just mentioned really did hold him back. George Hill saying, big up, Jack. Would like to see a creative mid competition for Ben Davies and Dyer and a versatile forward. Looking forward to the banger. Come on, you Spurs. Come on, you Flat Cap Army. George, it's exactly my list right there, my man. I don't think you could have summarized it any more succinctly, any more efficiently. Big up, George. Hopefully you're keeping well in New York today, my man. Another New Yorker, Marquise, in the house saying, what up, Jack? Good to see you, Marquise. I'll talk to you soon, my man. Thank you for tuning in. Ian Ferguson saying 30 million is still a steal. Honestly, did you actually think Bissouma was even going to go for that low of a price? Kieran, I forgot that his transfer, or his contract was up in 2023, which I think kind of explains how he went for such a cheap fee, but still like 30 million. I mean, absurd for someone like Bissouma.
Yeah, I think this is an absolute steal. It's funny, just for this morning when I woke up, I was looking on TikTok and I was getting recommended like a load of United fans and other people, and they're kind of all reacting the same way, going, "Jesus Christ, this is an absolute steal. How have they got this cross?
Yeah,
Like, how are they
almost
getting
a
this?"
crime. Yeah,
I think the year left does explain it. I think especially when you consider Brighton's position. The last, not necessarily this season, but the two previous seasons, they were 17. Not was it 17th, 17th, or like something.
yeah,
They're like the same position 2 years in a row. This year they've progressed, but they're not really even in Europe. So I'd say a year left. Bassoum is probably express to them that he probably wants to see what options and
And they need to
potentially
make
move.
money on
So
it.
they're just maybe
Yeah.
going, let's just cash in what we can now.
Yeah.
But 30 million is a steal. Last summer,
They
when
probably
we
should
were
have sold
linked
them
with
last
him,
summer instead. They could have doubled it. They could have made
yeah,
it 70 million. Yeah.
but this is the thing. Last summer, when we were linked to him, very small links to him, but Arsenal were linked to him heavily, and the links, the prices being put in around were everywhere between 50 and 70 million pounds, or 70 million euros might have been 50 million pounds. But when you consider that, we're getting 30 million including add-ons, and that might even just be euros, not even pounds.
Mm.
Like you are talking, those add-ons might not even be met because they might just be
Might be also
things like if we
payable
win the
like
Champions
years from
League,
now.
well, we might not
Yeah.
win the Champions League, or we win the league, we might not win that. So, you
Yeah.
know, yeah, still.
It's those sort of things. And it's just an absolute steal. Ian, really good to see you, my man. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for coming in. Marquis saying Gravenberch should look at Tolisso and worry that that is his future at Bayern. That is interesting. I don't know if Gravenberch has ever really had major injury issues, but I don't know too much about like his injury history. So you could say maybe that would be, if you were to make a bold prediction, Marquise, that could be a bold prediction. Maybe he follows a similar unfortunate path to Tolisso. Christoph Martin said, question, if Eriksen decides to stay at Brentford, he's not staying at Brentford, my man. He just rejected it. Who do we go for in that attacking midfield spot we were looking for? I would choose Madison or Sabotslai. You got fine taste, Christoph Martin. I like your taste, my man. But I can assure you, Christian Eriksen, he has rejected Brentford. He is headed somewhere, and it isn't Brentford by the looks of it, my man. I can't, confirm whether that's actually going to be Spurs, though. But big yourself up, Christoph. Lazy 8 saying, making it an NYC trifecta. New York is in the house, my man. Derek Hutchinson, big up, you guys. Big up, Derek. Really appreciate you tuning in. Hans London, love the name, says Molina as a cam, right wing, give competition for Kulu and tactical flexibility, 3-4-3 and a 3-5-2. Actually, interesting. Molina, I didn't really know if he could play as a cam, but he certainly is an excellent finisher, Nawel Molina, and he probably could play right wing because he is that good of a finisher. But I like the outside the box thinking there, Hans. Statistics, appreciate it. Hello from Georgia. Good to see you. Statistics. Stewart727 saying it'll be 50 million by Friday when we get him. It will still be a good value. Yeah, still a steal at that rate. Absolutely, Stewart.
As long as
really
it's only add-ons.
just keep each day is an add-on. SOF saying I'd sign Madison or Nkunku if Eriksen doesn't join. We have the money to get either one. So far, the business has been cheap. It's been extraordinarily cheap. We're waiting for the big signing to come in. Even this Bissouma one of like 26 to 30 million euros. Like now all of a sudden we're like, holy, oh my gosh, like a transfer fee. Like this is crazy. Spurs have actually paid money. SOF, I think we are going to bring in a big one. I don't think Bissouma is the big one though. Martin Walton, good to see you, my man. Hopefully everything out in Portugal is all good. Says, evening lads. If not Eriksen, then I'd love Fabio Vieira from Porto as a playmaker. Absolute wand of a left foot. I'll be honest, I've heard about this guy, haven't ever been able to see him play. And I've also been hearing Martin Walton that Vitinha guy over at Porto as well is also very highly rated. So maybe you'll just have to do a bit more kind of brushing up on my La Liga Nosh. I would say, though, that Portuguese players, Kieran, I've seen some statistics recently that they've actually been like the most successful on average coming to the Premier League than like any other league where, there is the Bundesliga tax. Liga players seem to kind of sometimes struggle, in the Premier League. Whereas like I've seen like the Portuguese league has actually had like the best track record for like players hitting the ground running in the Premier League.
Yeah, it's weird because I was looking, I was wondering about this because he's seen someone posting a thread recently, and I was looking into some of it myself. It's kind of weird. It's like in the last 5 years, the best conversion rate of like successful players and like transfer value increases has been players coming from Portugal to the Premier League.
Yeah.
Whereas like the biggest loss,
It's like
biggest
Bundesliga,
loss I think was La Liga.
Oh,
And then
yeah, that would make sense.
then I think after that it was Liga and then the Bundesliga. But if you go back like the 5 years previous, Bundesliga like massive like value increases. So it's like before 5 years ago, you weren't necessarily talking about all these Bundesliga talents, coming to the Prem as like, oh my god, we need to
I
sign
didn't
this
think about
person.
that.
But then they were just doing really well. And now it's like, oh my god, this
Now it's
guy's doing
so
really well in the
oversaturated.
Bundesliga.
Now the
And their
Bundesliga is
value,
oversaturated.
yeah.
Everybody knows everything about it. And now there is the Bundesliga tax. Never thought about it actually that way. So maybe it just sort of fluctuates and rotates,
Do you know,
a bit.
I think
That's
it's actually
interesting.
maybe because the players from the Bundesliga, maybe like I said, the 5 years previous are actually coming in, and then their transfer value increasing.
Mm,
Maybe performances in the Bundesliga, people are now adding a certain extra few million onto their kind of transfer market value or their hype because of what came before and the players that came before. So now
mm,
people are kind of going, oh, all these players that came from that league did well previously, and you kind of then have a fluctuation of hype. This person must be really good. Then we need to,
mm.
maybe that's where it comes from, and that's maybe why you see all the different leagues fluctuating up and
Right,
down and
right.
constantly switching.
That makes sense, actually. And there you are, everybody. Just a bit of kind of insight. By the way, just at least right now, and like Kieran just said, at least of like the last 5 years, the best track record for players making that transition to the Premier League, in fact, is players from the Portuguese league. So maybe when you are thinking about suggesting players, add in a few from Liga Nosh. See what people have to say. Tequila 316 in the house. Good to see you, Calvin. Can we go for Tequetalera? I wish we could, my man, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's ever going to happen. It's just a dream for another lifetime. Amir Sardar saying, big up, Jack. Top man. Great channel. Really do appreciate you, Amir. And he also says, I want to see Dennis, Solomon, Bastoni, and Kostic come in. A lot of people are still holding out for Kostic. They still want him. With Manor Solomon, honestly, you know me, Amir, I would absolutely love him. The problem is that could he be, maybe actually he could be a Bergwijn replacement to an extent. Like he is more of a creative kind of winger than he is like a goal scoring kind of winger, but he is honestly a real talent, Amir, and he probably could be seen as kind of a Bergwijn replacement, kind of like also Lucas Moura sort of replacement. And if he were to go as well, I like that shout, Amir. I like that shout. But Emmanuel Dennis is probably one of my number one choices for backup striker. But everybody, so many are coming in. We have 45 in the house. So everybody, at this moment of time, please hit that like button while you're in here. Feel free as well to hit the subscribe if you are new to this channel. Throw in a super chat if you want to support the channel, as well as stop Kieran and I at any stage and talk about what you want to talk about. But basically on this episode, Kieran and I are just going to be talking about what else needs to be done. And we're just going to be looking at all the rest of the positions that we feel like need filling over at Spurs. We have a few really good questions kind of lined up that you in the comments I want to see kind of engaging with. But yeah, let's get it started. I think we're going to start with backup strikers here. And kind of the people that I have on screen, everybody, these are sort of the players that I think we've been mostly kind of linked with, slash maybe good examples of, what is actually available out there. So to explain, in the case of Richarlison, we know we've been linked with the guy, and he's probably the most expensive when you kind of think about it of the backup strikers that we are sort of looking for. Whereas maybe someone like a Sasa Kaladzic, who's outside the Premier League, who might be more of a gamble, might be around of a cheaper fee, like a 16 million to 20 million euro sort of player. And then someone like an Emmanuel Dennis, who we know is like Premier League proven and is also going to be on a cheaper fee because he just got relegated over at Watford. Maybe you could snag him for something like 16 to 25 million, something like that. So pretty much the whole point of this is, maybe explain to me why you picked whoever you picked for backup striker, how much money you would spend on it, and, basically just all that sort of reasoning and logic. But I have a really interesting question that I showed you ahead of time about this, Kieran. And it just, I don't know, it's something that, I don't know, maybe gives me a bit of hesitation here. Will we sign a backup striker, or will we actually sign maybe another winger, kind of like a Manor Solomon instead? Because I have this odd feeling that Spurs might continue to disappoint and perhaps avoid, the backup striker yet again.
Yeah, see, we did a video, obviously the stream a couple of weeks ago, going through like who we'd like to see signed at Tottenham, and kind of giving our thoughts. And that was kind of like links from the time before, obviously, the transfer window opened. And we were all saying that it's kind of like the one position that's the hardest to predict, because it's not like we look at it and kind of go, okay, there's one player that's, been linked for ages. We know that this is going to get done. There's already a bid. We're trying to get this person over the line. It's a position where there's not really anything. And anyone, Dennis has been linked with West Ham, but we haven't, like, obviously we've been linked with him, but it doesn't seem like tons of news is coming out about it. Sasha Kaladzic is obviously being linked with Bayern.
We were linked with him last year too, but then it's kind of quiet this summer, which is
and this is the thing. And he's been linked with Bayern, with obviously the reported departure of Lewandowski potentially going through. Richarlison, the price tag being reported is massive, which kind of makes me feel like, are we going to go for him? And then, you look at Skamaka as well, obviously just been linked with it in the last few hours to PSG. So a lot of the strikers even that we've been linked with, or people have been, reporters have been saying, oh, this, we're interested in these players. They're all being linked with other clubs, or they've got massive fees that it seems like it might be too hard to get across. Not too hard because they are deals that we could definitely get done. But I think it difficult to get done in terms of, are we really going to pay that amount of money for someone who's majority going to sit on the bench? I feel like in the end we'll sign someone that I think Bergwijn will go, and we'll probably end up bringing in one of those players that's they're a winger, but they can play anywhere across the front three.
That's
They
my
can do a
prediction.
job at striker if needed. I feel like that's going to be what's done. Especially when you consider the amount of young strikers we have, in terms of Troy Parrott, Kiana Tete, Dane Scarlett. Not that I think those will get a chance, but I think that maybe they'll just go, oh, well, we'll sign this player. He can play there if needed, but it doesn't hinder development of other players. I feel like that's maybe what will end up being done, despite us all for the last God knows how many. I forget. I've actually lost count of how many years we've been saying we need a backup striker now. But yeah.
In the case of like Emmanuel Dennis, it's the one that makes the most sense to me. It's the one that is logical. Like, he's going to be on a cheaper fee. He just, had a spectacular season where I think he had the most non-penalty goals of all the sort of kind of, bottom of the table, strikers. He, I think, was exceptional as either a left winger or as a striker. He kind of played both for Watford this season. So he would be kind of similar to the likes of Richarlison in the fact that he could probably play sort of for the most part across the front three. So maybe the best option for me, Kieran, is getting someone that is basically comfortable in all three positions, for the most part, or comfortable in at least two of the positions. But what you just said kind of makes me think that that's what Spurs will end up doing, is they'll get someone like a Bergwijn who's definitely most comfortable as a winger, but then like sort of can play as a striker when maybe called upon or needed. And I think that's what Spurs are going to settle for, because if you ask me, it seems like they're so hesitant to spend money on a player that you just described, someone who won't end up actually getting that many minutes, someone who really only contributes, at the end of games, maybe only fills in for the competitions that, just probably are maybe put a bit to the wayside. That sort of role, like how much money do you really envision a club like Tottenham Hotspur actually spending on, kind of a role that they probably don't even see being that important. So it probably explains why we haven't even gone for a backup striker in so long, is because Spurs probably see it as like, a waste of money, even though it isn't a waste of money. Believe me, it definitely isn't. I think that's just maybe explanation for why Spurs have been taking so long, if you ask me.
I think the problem with this position, especially for us, is like you've got Harry Kane who starts, but then you've also got all these young strikers. So it's like, okay, well, we can sign a young striker who's doing okay, but then a lot of times they're doing really well. They have massive price tags that we're like, well, look, we're not going to spend that much on a player who's going to play second fiddle for most of the time. But, why do we need to sign another young striker when we already have loads coming through? But then you look at the older players, or the players that aren't necessarily these young ones that are coming through having good seasons. They're staples at clubs they're at, or they're players that are proven or scoring goals, and then they cost more and have inflated price tags. So it's a bit like, I think the money that we're paying is always that line. Not necessarily, like I said before, it's not necessarily a line of like, okay, that's too much money. A club like us, we can't afford to pay that. It's more like a club like us aren't willing to pay that for a number two striker. I think that's the problem we have. Anyone that we are willing to pay for is probably a young striker, and it's seen as, yeah, but we've already got three young strikers, so we don't need another one. And then anyone else is, well, we're not willing to pay that much for for this. So yeah, it's such a weird one. I think for me, from the links, Richarlison, money aside, just who we're being linked with, Richarlison is probably the one that makes the most sense from the ones we've been heavily linked to. But I don't know, the price tag, it kind of puts me off a little bit on that.
It's one of those where I think Richarlison might be the best of the one of the best of the choices out there, one of the best. But it's like an extortionate fee, which is the problem there. And like you're getting one of the best options for this role that we're talking about. And he would be able to probably challenge actually the front three in some ways, so he could keep them on their toes. But then it's just an extortionate fee. So you do kind of, yeah, it's just a bit of a struggle. Before we move on from the backup striker, Veghorst, could you see that happening? We haven't been linked with him at all, but is that like, could that come out of nowhere? Like maybe what I'm trying to ask, could you see an Emmanuel Dennis or a Veghorst, come out of nowhere, maybe all of a sudden?
And Emmanuel Dennis, I can, because he's kind of got a little bit more athleticism to him
Hmm.
in terms of he's got a little bit of pace in his legs. So he offers something a bit different. Veghorst, before he went to Burnley, I would have said yes. But since he's gone to Burnley, he started really well, that first 2 games or 3 games. And then he just kind of looked like he couldn't put the ball in the back of the net for most of the remaining
Hmm.
games that he played for them. And I think that, to be honest, probably hinders the chances of us going for him. If he got off to, if he continued how he started at Burnley those first couple games, I think that he's maybe someone we'd be looking at, or other clubs would definitely be looking at. But I think just the way he kind of ended the season with them, Ashley Barnes was outshining him in some matches for Burnley. So, I think
That's
that,
true, actually. Yeah.
yeah.
He was starting to
Who,
miss some
who
sitters
who are you
actually
talking
at the
about?
end of the
Who are
season.
you talking about scoring the goals for Burnley in the final few games, trying to keep him up? It was, you're talking about,
Westwood and like, yeah,
yeah, like
Brownhill
you
and
weren't
yeah,
really
Rand.
sitting there going, "Oh my God, Veghorst is pulling Burnley out the mud, like he's going to
Yeah,
potentially,"
in fact, he
he
didn't
wasn't in
pull
that
them out the mud. That
conversation.
was the problem. He was brought
Yeah,
in to pull them out the mud, and he couldn't do it, in fact. So, yeah, that's a good point. Mick, really good to see you, my man. Dave, I think he'll be back tomorrow with a big kind of just discussion sort of panel, my man. So stay tuned tomorrow, brother. Really appreciate you, Mick. But creative midfielders, maybe a really good conversation there. Get ourselves warmed up. Maybe we move on to that sort of problem. Honestly, Kieran, I will admit, I don't think we solved the striker issue. I think we kind of, we're still in some sort of confusion about, what sort of role Spurs will actually go for, what type of player they'll actually go for. So I would say watch this space when it comes to that. But when it comes to creative midfielders, now that we have Bissouma, does it make more sense to just settle for someone, a bit cheaper, someone that someone that you're comfortable with, like a Christian Eriksen? Or would you still say like Spurs should still maybe splash the cash on something better or maybe bigger than an Eriksen? What are your kind of feelings on that? Because Basuma plus Eriksen, it kind of just makes sense. Like it's sort of like a logical, two sets of midfielders to sign for Spurs, but it isn't the flashiest and it isn't, really spending that much money at all. What would you think? Like, do you think you would get someone like an Eriksen, or would you perhaps still go after like a Paqueta or, a James Madison or something?
um, yeah. This is a position again. It's like this one's like the striker. There's obviously options that you kind of look at and you just go, "Yes, this would be amazing." Is it going to happen? Probably not. you know,
Hmm.
like I'd love Milenkovic Savic. I'd love him, but I just don't see it happening, especially with the price tags that were linked early. We were linked with him earlier in the window, um, and then you've got all the price tag rumors coming out from their owner and their CEO, and it's like absolutely no no rumors with him. So I don't know if everyone's been scared off him. Um, Madison, uh, I do like Madison, but I don't know if he's a player that would play many games under Conte. I don't know why. I just have a feeling he wouldn't be one of those players that Conte likes.
Yeah, I
Um,
could see that. I could see
you
that.
know,
And he's almost one of those players that you do sort of have to, not entirely, but you do kind of have to build the team a bit around him, or at least
yeah.
build the structure around him.
Honestly, I actually really like him. I would like to see him in a Tottenham shirt, but part of me is like, do I really want to see him in a Tottenham shirt? Is he going to be a star man under like Conte? I don't
That's
know.
so funny.
Um,
Well,
Ericsson on
actually,
free.
Sergey and him might go for the same price, I believe. I think him and Sergey are basically valued around the same price. Him and Milinkovic Savic, so
I actually think Madison would go for a lot less,
a lot
because I
less.
think
Yeah. What would you
Arsenal
say you
being
go for?
quoted,
Like 40 to 50? What would you say,
they're being
Madison?
quoted like 40 million.
Yeah.
last summer. That was,
Interesting.
he hasn't signed a new deal as far as I'm
Yeah.
aware. So,
So
I'd
yeah.
say probably around the same price, maybe a little bit less.
Yeah.
Um,
He
for
did have a
me,
great season, but I don't know how much that actually inflates the price because, like you said, another year on his contract just went down. So maybe
yeah,
you're right.
and this is a big thing with football as well, especially a lot of footballers nowadays running their contracts down because they know it means they're going to get a bigger contract if they run
Yep.
it down, down to a year.
And more of a
Um,
chance of them being able to be bought by another club, the
yeah,
more they run the
and they
contract
have a
down.
lot more freedom of where they want to go. The the weird thing is, I I would take Eriksen back unless we're getting someone better than him, and by that I mean like they've got to have a lot better quality than them. Lucas
Mm,
Paqueta I do like as well. Obviously, he had a good season at Lyon. Wasn't too bad last season.
hmm
But
Similar numbers this season before too.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's the thing that really puts me off him. It's not even puts me off him. Just gives me doubts. Was his time at Milan, and I
Yep.
think is he just like another Ndombele where he's
Yep.
allowed to
Yep.
just go and do his own thing?
I know
Like
what you
Leon
mean.
didn't play that well this season either. So it's not
No.
like they've done really well and he's been. It's like they've had a poor season, but he's been a player
Yeah.
that's done all right. So
Yeah.
it's like,
You're spot on.
is he
You're spot
actually
on.
doing that good, or is he? Is he?
The other thing too is that he's also been playing his 2 seasons that have gone well under Leon have been for a Petter Bosch sort of team, which is very much known for being very attacking and like, kind of just leaving, the defense, just to be, sort of destroyed. And that means then that you could say his numbers could be sort of inflated by the fact that he plays in a very much more like attacking, minded sort of team. So what I mean to say by that is Paqueta, the numbers he's getting are not, they could be slightly even inflated, to be fair. And like you even just said before, when that AC Milan move didn't work out and it really did fail and fall flat on its face, that sort of move does make you like question like the fact that he did just go to Liga and immediately do well. Maybe that is sort of his level. Perhaps like he actually can't make that step up. But to be honest, though, at the same time, Brazil seemed to be really liking him. I've seen all these pictures of him and Neymar, together, and perhaps maybe Brazilians rate Paqueta more than the rest of us do. So who knows,
Yeah,
honestly.
I mean, it's not like I don't rate him. It's more like I said, it's one of those things. It's like a doubt. It's like
I'd be
okay, he's had
cautious. Yeah, I think it's a
two good
cautious one.
seasons at Leon,
Yeah.
but I don't look at him and go like, wow, okay, undisputed, he's going to smash it, get him through the door. It's kind of like okay, yeah, he's been doing pretty well. I've liked it, but his team hasn't done that well, and he didn't do that great at Milan. It's like one of those situations you'd like to see him do it at another club, but you also don't want to see him at another club because then it means you're gonna have to spend massive money on him.
hmm
But yeah, for me, people say I've seen people recently say that obviously, oh well, you need to move on from the past, and I agree. There is certain times where you can't be attaching
Yeah.
yourself too much to the past. It's like Lucas Moura. I don't
hmm
think he should be starting in the team because he scored 3 goals against Ajax. Very well he done that, and it was a massive thing for us at the time. But I don't think that warrants him a starting place or a place on the bench. He's still got to earn that. Um, but for me, Eriksen's on a free. I think if you look at the quality he's shown at Brentford, he's still got it. And people are saying that he didn't play under Conte, but in the last season, the season that he played under Conte when they won the league, he played 34 games for Inter.
Okay.
So it's not. It was only the first season that he went into that half season or whatever it was that
Yeah.
he went from us that he struggled. But the second
Yeah.
season, he made quite a lot of appearances.
Yeah.
For Inter. So I don't think it's one that Conte doesn't like him or he didn't get on with Conte. I think it was just like an adapting phase where it's like,
I've said the
you
same
know,
thing actually before. And actually, to be honest though, I'm about to probably go against what I've originally said, but you're right about something, Kieran. When people spoke about Christian Eriksen's time with Conte, it seems like they're kind of like there's a bit of revisionist history going on where like they somehow think that he instantaneously, was liked by Conte and, like things just, went swimmingly right away. It took like a full half season of Eriksen being practically ignored and, not even used at all by Conte. I think even that loan in the beginning, or at least that move to Inter, it was going so poor that there were rumors that Eriksen was actually expected to leave Inter after that, half season. It was getting that poor. And then he was able to sort of, work his way into the Conte team. He was able to like adapt his game, maybe, adapt himself so that Conte would play him. So we have to remember that Eriksen sort of had to adjust himself. Conte had to adjust himself for those two to kind of work together. Do we see that happening again? Probably, because he'd be more comfortable doing it again. But it does make you think, I think, Kieran, like it's not like it worked, like a glove, Eriksen and Conte together. And who knows whether it'd work again.
Yeah, I mean, he was playing a completely different role to how he was playing for us. For
Or
us,
even how he's playing now for Brentford, it's
yeah,
an entirely different role.
yeah, and I think actually Conte had actually improved him overall in terms of his ability to be a little bit more flexible in the central midfield kind of positions. He's not just a player who is picking up the ball, in the final third and playing that last pass. Now he's someone a little bit more who is able to play it from a little bit deeper, and play more as a central box to box. Not necessarily that's how he played for Conte, but just in general, I think he's now got a bit more of a football head on him that he can actually play more than just one type
Yeah, you're probably
position.
right.
But
Right.
for me, it's take Eriksen on a free unless you're getting someone who is definitely better. I would
You're
hate for
like,
us
you
to
seem to be
kind of
saying like
just
take Eriksen if you're not getting any creative midfielder at all, just take Eriksen on your way out. Just grab him while you're going, sort of
well, I
situation.
think so because
Yeah.
it's not like
All
Conte's
or
just played a
nothing. Like if you're getting nothing,
5-2-3.
just get Eriksen. That's
Yeah,
kind of your
but
stance.
it's
Yeah.
not like Conte's just played a 5-2-3 religiously at every single club he's been at.
No, he hasn't.
He's played a 5-3-2, and I think you take Eriksen on a free, you've got extra depth there. People forget we're going to be playing FA Cup, Carabao Cup, the Premier League, and then Champions League next season. And the Champions League is going to be a big ask. I mean, at the moment, this season, look how tight we were going towards the end of the season. We had pretty much two midfielders because we had Winks, who we didn't really want to see on the pitch. Next year, add Champions League in the mix, and add those other two cup competitions that realistically we're aiming to go a little bit further than we did this season. And if we do, we are going to need the depth. And sometimes it might just be good to have Eriksen there that you can kind of go, okay, we can shift and play a 5-3-2 if needed, or if we want, or if Conte wants to in different competitions. Like at the moment we kind of go Skip, Højbjerg, Bentancur, Bissouma. Those are the four. Well, if one of them gets injured, you're now playing potentially multiple competitions. You've only got three midfielders again, and
Yeah.
then you're stuck.
You're
going,
finding yourself
okay,
in the similar problems you were last season.
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like we need to make another midfield signing. I feel
Can I
like
just quickly
Eriksen's
ask
just
you
a
about
quick fix.
Zelensky? Because I haven't seen us ever rumored with him, but I know you really like Zelensky, especially at least his stats last season were unbelievable. I'm not so sure about this season, but I don't know. Like I just don't know. I haven't looked at his FB ref yet.
Yeah.
But Zelensky, are you kind of disappointed that maybe we haven't been linked with him for that creative midfielder role?
This season just gone, he blew a little bit hot and cold at times, so I'm not too surprised. I think Napoli's like one of those clubs that to actually bring any of their players across, you just need to pay massive
You need to
fees.
pay. Yeah. You're right.
They're just a team that doesn't really like to sell, their talents abroad unless it's for big fees. So it's one of those ones. It's like, okay, he's not improved on the season before last, really. And then you look at the fee. I don't know if we were linked to them. I could see it just being a massive.
Would you
fee
take
just
him over at
because it's Napoli.
Paqueta? Would you take him over at Paqueta? I think I would maybe.
I would probably take him over Paqueta just because I know that he could probably do a more central position, like what Bentancur does for us currently if he was needed to. Whereas Paqueta, I don't know if I'd really trusted him in a two midfield.
Yeah. I agree. I think no way Paqueta gets away with being in a two-man midfield. Probably to summarize this, I really liked Kieran's points. I don't really know what else I could add apart from the fact that I think it's Sergey for me or nothing. I still think if we got Sergey Milinkovic-Savic, that would be such a statement signing of sorts. And probably it would be that extra like superstar in the team that's really needed, because as much as I think we're making really smart and clever signings, it would be nice to add like a big name to the Sonny and Kane sort of, sheet. I know Romero probably eventually might, be one of the big names of the Premier League. But if you brought in someone like a Sergei Milinkovic-Savic, who is going to fit in really well to this system, but also could just be like such a statement signing that it probably would send shockwaves even through maybe the Premier League. So I'd still say, if we have the money, still go for Sergey, like spend whatever it takes. I think he's worth it. Double the itch, double the power. But I don't know. I just don't see it happening with Sergey. I really don't. I actually see us settling for Christian Eriksen. I see us, or maybe going for a Paqueta or a Zelensky. I just don't see us breaking the bank, on 50, 60 million on a creative midfielder, when I actually think we probably should. I think we probably should spend 50 to 60 on a creative midfielder. We have been burned in the past, with Tanguy as well as Gio Lo Celso, in the creative mid department. But I think with Sergey, I just don't think it's a risk. I really don't think it's any risk at all, in fact. So I would probably go big on him. And maybe with what Kieran was saying, if we're not getting a creative mid, or we're not willing to spend a lot of money on it, just get Eriksen then. Just do it. Just grab him on your way out of the store, kind of situations. So that's what I would say. That's how I would summarize it.
Just to add on that, because I forgot, I actually did make a note of this before the show, because I was like, okay, I need to make note of this just so I don't forget. And now I forgot, and someone in the comments has just reminded me. But obviously, Papamata Sarr is coming back. There isn't
we don't know we don't know what his situation is going to be. I think what's actually interesting about that, it's probably how he impresses Conte. Like, how does he settle in with Conte, and that Conte will make the decision, I imagine.
Well, this is a thing. The weird thing about Sarr is he hasn't been linked away. He wouldn't play a creative role for us. I don't think that's a thing, but he would add a little bit of depth. We'd probably get some games in cup competitions if he stayed with us. Obviously, it depends. I'd say he's probably going to have a little bit of a pre-season with us, I would assume, just to see what Conte thinks of him. That's kind of my thoughts on it. But we've also been linked with Yaya Toure as someone coming in the academy. And what I would actually like is if Yaya Toure did come through and start working with some of the younger teams, depending on what team it was. If it's something like the under-23s, then I would actually probably like to see him stay and just play the odd games here and there in cup competitions. And even if it is playing with the under-23s, I know, maybe a loan to a championship club would be best. But if Conte does like the look of him and think, yeah, okay, maybe you can do a few games here and there for me in some cup competitions.
What if he's like a Harvey Elliott or something, like, Papa Matasar? You could see him doing something like that.
Well, the thing is,
Curtis Jones, like Curtis Jones minutes, things like that.
But this is the thing, like if Conte sees him as potentially playing a few minutes, even if it is cup competitions, but Toure does come and says the under-23s, I'd probably like him to stay, because I don't think the best player that he would be able to replicate in terms of the physical attributes he has in his current play style is Yaya Toure. So if Yaya did come into the academy setup, which has been rumoured previously in the past, then I would love to see that. But if that doesn't happen, I'd probably like to see a championship loan out if Conte isn't going to think about using him regularly and he's just going to mainly sit in the academy. So really depends. But this is the weird thing. It's like, there's so much that I would love for us to do now, but there's so much that I want to see happen in pre-season with Conte before I also decide what I want to see happen. It's like, I want to see this, but I also want the complete opposite to happen if Conte has a good pre-season.
A great answer, Kieran. It really is. Everybody who's maybe still just tuning in, creative midfielders, it feels like our conclusion there was probably, at least for my sake, probably go all out for whatever creative midfielder you really think, should probably improve Spurs. In my case, that's Sergey. I think we should go all out for him. But if we aren't going to get someone like a Sergey, I just feel like you have to settle with something. Like, you have to grab some sort of creative midfielder, and probably Christian Eriksen might be the best bang for your buck, might be the one that probably is the safest of the choices as well. So I would say at least get Eriksen. Definitely not at all near my first choice, but at least get him, at least get something. I thought maybe just to add,
I forgot the reason I was also saying just get Eriksen unless you're definitely getting someone better is because we can essentially then load money into one of the other positions. Like, we can either go, okay, we want a Gvardiol who's going to cost us crap tons of money now because we've saved money attacking wise, we can really push that. Or if that deal then isn't even possible, we can maybe then just really try and force it in as a hand with Bastoni. I think Bastoni's dead in the water, but
yeah.
to be honest, but yeah, if we save money in another position, then we can basically go, okay, well, 30 million on Bissouma, not even, and then you got Eriksen on free. Saar potentially has come back and maybe be part of the squad. How many more midfielders are we going to try and sign?
Yeah.
Basically for 30 million, you could have the midfield sorted in Conte's eyes for this upcoming season, or at least until January. And then we haven't offloaded Ndombele or Gio Lo Celso either.
That's right.
So,
And once you
you've
do
also got to
offload one
think
of
that,
those, like
yeah,
they probably would say, like, maybe we can fill in a position here. And
yeah.
maybe
It's even
actually, if
one of
I were to
those
make
if
a
we can't
prediction,
offload them.
I say we unload Gio, and I could see us picking up Eriksen. Let's say we also get rid of Tanguy. You maybe see us go after like a Zelensky or Paqueta. I could see us doing that. I
Yeah,
don't see us going after Sergey. I really don't. But I could see us potentially grabbing a Zelensky or a Paqueta. Something around that price range.
Yeah. Well, I would love us to spend on a midfielder. The only reason I mentioned the likes of Lo Celso and Tanguy is because it's like we can't really go out and spend big on midfielders and then not offload
Not play
those
them.
two. And then you're
Yeah.
sitting there with like 10 central midfielders in the squad and you can't even register them. And then you got people sitting on 200k a week that aren't even registered,
Yeah.
in our squad. So it's like,
And we've had that
yeah,
problem. We've just had that problem last season in the case of Ndombele, and we don't want it to happen again. There you are, everybody. The creative midfielder. I think we sort of solved that one. Where the striker situation, I don't really know what clarity we added to the situation. Probably made it more confusing. In fact, left wing backs. Yeah.
There isn't any clarity on the striker position.
There isn't any clarity. There's none that could be added. Absolutely. We only murkied it even more. But in the case of left wing back, I thought this would be kind of quick, Kieran. It's just the question that's been on my mind is why are we even being linked with left wing backs? Because apparently we're heavily interested in that guy Weindal over at AZ Alkmaar. Borna Sosa, I'm still seeing links to at this day and age still. There's been like that guy Udoji from Udinese that we've been linked with. He's a left wing back over there. I mean, the real question is like, why are we being linked with left wing backs? It kind of makes me feel like perhaps PERIŠIĆ isn't going to be used primarily as a left wing back. He might be used as sort of like a utility role where he'll play left wing back one week. Next weekend, he's playing backup striker. Next week after that, he's playing right wing. What are your thoughts about us still being linked with, left wing backs? Because the Udoji one is also the most recent one, the guy from Udinese.
I'm really not sure what to think of the left wing back rumours, because at first I thought it was one of those, maybe, where Paratici is, scouts players and makes contact with loads of different clubs about players to try and then manipulate a deal for the one he wants. I had a feeling, especially because of the way Kostic rumours were there, it was like really heavy. Okay, Kostic was like, we're interested, we're preparing a bid. He's going to go maybe for this much. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, PERIŠIČ signed, nothing to do with Kostic anymore. And at first, recently, I thought these are probably just links that are coming out because maybe clubs or agents were contacted before we got PERIŠIČ, and now it's just kind of lingering a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But now some of the rumors just keep coming out, and it's like, why are we still?
Seems like we're not
we're
not full, like we're not satisfied, or something like that.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe I really don't know why we're still being linked with them, because we haven't offloaded Reggie. There is no rumors of Cess going out.
No, he's staying. Yeah.
So I don't know if it's maybe one of those ones where we're just looking at deals going, okay, this player's cheap. Maybe it's a buy and we're loaning them back out to a club and keeping them there and seeing if Cess's injuries go away over the next year. Also, maybe that's what we're doing. There's kind of like a fail safe. I don't know.
That's a good guess. I think that's a good guess.
Yeah, because I don't think we will sign another left wing back, because otherwise I think we would have continued with Kostic. So I think, the players we're linked with now, it's probably one of those buy loan out to another club or keep
Yeah.
loan to the club they're at, and it's a fail safe. If Cesc can't get over his injuries next season, we can bring someone in. Maybe it's one of those situations. I don't know. Or
I think
maybe
it's
it's one of
probably
those ones
because
where
yeah,
Perisic is able to be pushed up the pitch. Maybe it's one of
right,
those.
right.
That's the only thing I can think of.
I've heard the utility position theory, and I forget who I'm stealing that from, but I do apologize. But someone gave that theory, and I actually probably subscribe to that. That Perisic will play more than two positions, I would guess. Maybe this upcoming season, you might find him one week playing left wing, next week he's playing left wing back. Then who knows? He plays right wing back. After that. So I could see him just being moved all the way around, and just it's almost like Conte will just find a spot for him because he knows that he can just do a job in most positions. So that might be the guess there. I think Martin Walton's onto something here where perhaps this is just something that Spurs just always do. Like, no matter who the manager is, even in the case of Conte, despite us going for ready-made proven players, Spurs are still going to do their due diligence and making sure that they do have young players that, they can make an investment on for the future, young players that can maybe make a crack into the first team in a season or two, or even just like sort of investments. Like I think Spurs are clearly, keeping an eye on young, talented players to, seize up now that they can be able to sell for much bigger later, or even be able to have them available for the first team. So perhaps it's just kind of a mixture of, Conte's sort of transfer, kind of policy, as well as like Spurs's old kind of transfer policies maybe coming into play here. If I'm going to be honest with the left wing back situation, I'm kind of with Kieran here. I don't see us signing another one that will actually play in the first squad or in the first team next season. I do probably see us maybe signing someone like a Wijndal and then maybe loaning him back out to AZ Alkmaar. Then the following season, him probably coming back and making a crack into the first team. Probably similar to something like a Papa Montasar situation, actually, for that
Yeah,
left wing back.
just to add on that, obviously, I've seen a few comments as well, but this was kind of why I was making a point of maybe it's, a fail safe and buying players to loan back out is because this is kind of Paratici reworking, the club a little bit. I remember when he came back in, I'm not sure if it was he was saying stuff or this was what reports are saying. I'm pretty sure it was him that was saying that he's trying to bring us as a club, our academies and our youth system up to those of the clubs that are at the world class top level, and I think he is trying to rework, our youth system or some of the young players we have through. I think that's why you still see us being linked to a lot of young players. And some people are seeing that and going, "Oh, another one, one for the future." I think those players are actually more of a yes, it is one for the future, but this is because maybe some of the players in our academy aren't seen as ones that are going to be of a world class level. Maybe that's why we're looking at some of these players. I think we will end up being more somewhere like the world class teams across Europe, or not necessarily the world class clubs, but doing what a lot of those clubs do, which is you buy that young talent and then you just loan it
What
out.
Chelsea used to do. What Chelsea used to
Chelsea,
do.
yeah, and Chelsea have
They're the kings
used
of
it
it.
really, but
Yeah, they
I don't
abused
see
it
us
in
doing it
fact.
to that extent, because they abused it there to let players
They got
out
in
on
trouble
loan.
for it. In fact,
Yeah,
yeah, they even got fined for it and lost. That was actually the whole reason they even had the transfer ban in the first place, was because they abused that system,
well,
to such an
this is a
extent.
thing that I think we will do, but not to an extent. I think it will be a thing of, okay, this player's good, maybe won't start for us, but we'll buy them and we'll just keep them loaned out and build up that value. I mean, you look at Romero, he was at, he came from Juventus, wasn't it? It was
Yeah,
Juve.
Juventus
He's
was the team
loaned.
that technically owned him, and
Yeah.
then Atalanta bought him
Well,
after
he was
that
loaned
season
to
on loan,
Atalanta, but they had
and
a
then
buy
Atalanta
option, and then
buys
we,
him, and then we bought him from Atalanta after
yeah.
that. Even
And
though
I think that's
technically we were paying Juventus, even though
yeah.
technically we were paying
Well, because
Juventus.
that was, I think that was a thing. The reason that we didn't buy him straight away is because in the Serie A he can only transfer clubs once or something.
Yeah,
So Atalanta had to buy him, but then we took him off loan from Atalanta with the
that's right.
obligation to
Then we
buy.
did another loan option to
Yeah,
buy. Wow, what a complicated deal of sorts. I mean, Paratici
but
giving himself headaches there.
I suppose the good thing about getting Paratici is wherever he was going to go, that deal was probably going to be one that was made. But
Mm,
that's how Paratici works. Look, Romero, we're sitting here going, "Oh my god, wow, he's amazing," but he was loaned out at Juve, so I see that that's potentially what we're going to
yeah,
do, buying upcoming talents and just keeping them loaned out. Which
yeah.
is going to be frustrating at times because we will be covering transfer links going, is this player going to start for us? And they're probably just players that aren't even going to touch the first team. A lot of them are just going to be players that are going to come in but be loaned straight back out. Yeah.
That's a fantastic answer there, Kieran. And Dermot from Tottenham Gold saying with the super sticker, and it's just a number 1 pointed into the sky. Really do appreciate that, Dermot. Do appreciate the donation. Everybody, please send in your super chats if you want to stop Kieran and I at any stage, or if you just want to support the channel. It's a great way to do so. But we're going to keep moving on. Thank you very much, Dermot. Everybody, check out Tottenham Gold. I'm also going to be putting Kieran's channel in the group chat. I mean, you've been hearing him speak absolute. Honestly, he's full of mic drops today. Whatever he just was having at work, even though despite I know he's probably a bit tired, he is honestly giving me some great answers to work with, everybody. So I would say check out his channel. We are going to be moving on to the right wing back situation now, while I'm going to be putting his channel in the link in the chat, everybody. So please hit that link. But the right wing back situation is also very interesting, I must say, because it seems like Spence is happening. Regardless of how soon it's happening, it seems like it's happening. But the big question is, will we stop there? Perhaps we might actually get more than just Jet Spence. And I have maybe a strong feeling that we are going to maybe still look at the likes of Dodo, Nawel Molina, even if we get Jet Spence, because you've said this a few times, Kieran, like despite all the answers we've given, with Gio Lo Celso, Tanguy and Dembele, those players that we still have to move on. Once you do move on those players, maybe there is, room to add in an extra player. And let's say we move on Emerson or Doherty, perhaps, we would actually go after another right wing back. And I could see us going after one of these three. In fact, these would be one of the three that I would guess us going after here. If I were to ask you, do you see Spurs signing 2 right wing backs this summer? It does seem a bit of a stretch to do that, but could you see us doing that?
I can't see us signing. Well, this thing, I haven't seen any links so far of Emerson or Doherty leaving.
Yeah.
Or anything.
And even
strong.
Emerson said he wants to stay, I think, at one stage.
Yeah. And this is the weird thing. Emerson was saying that he's going to have his best season, now that he feels settled. So it's a weird one. I haven't seen any links saying like, okay, these players are definitely going. So I think if Spence is definitely across the line, or once it's across the line, it looks like it's going to happen. So once it's across the line, I don't know. I think if another right wing back is done, it might just be a Singo or a Dodo, but again, loaned back out to the clubs. So I see potential for another right wing back signing, but not actually coming into the squad. That's that's probably where
Do
I
you think
see
all
it
three
going.
of these guys are better than Spence? Like, I don't know if I've ever gotten your real opinion on Jed Spence. Do you think Jed Spence, he's a weird one because he's not someone that we probably knew about unless Spurs, went after this guy. But I would say with Jed Spence, it feels like if Spurs have that much confidence in the guy, it makes me feel like maybe I should have more confidence in the guy, because if they've done their homework on the player and they seem to really think that he's the one, then maybe we should give him more of a chance. But just, to be devil's advocate here, do you feel like Dodo, Molina, Singo, are these all better options, you feel like, in your eyes, maybe than Jed Spence, just as, footballers?
I think all of these players that we linked with at right wing back are raw players. And I mean that in like they've got clear talent or clear attributes, that would work well for us. But they're also players that you look at and kind of go, yeah, but they really need to improve here, or, this is an area they need to just work on. Like none of these players are like Dodo, Molina, Singo, Spence. Those 4. When I say all of these players, they're all players that are doing well and showing signs that they can be good players, but they're all still very raw talents. They still all have a long way to go, and I think sometimes we get lost with young players because we see a young player doing well and we're instantly kind of like, this player, wow, because of their age and how well they're doing for their age. But, we often sometimes neglect how far left they really have to improve. or
Yeah.
or the weak
Or how much
areas.
more they still have to develop. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
and I think that's part of the problem. That's why I don't see us getting two of them. Would I like to see us get two of them? Yes, because it means no matter what, if Spence comes into the team and doesn't do well, we still have other options. We're not shooting ourselves in the foot, going like Emerson, where you've bought him and then you're sitting there going, okay, this isn't working. We need to upgrade, and then clubs maybe holding you over barrel, knowing that you're trying to offload right backs at that point.
Mm.
Where they're just throwing cheap options at you, or they're trying to charge you more for their own right backs. So yeah, I would like to see two. Do I see two coming into the squad? No, not unless someone leaves. At the moment, there isn't strong links to that. So if you do
Yeah,
get
that's a
two,
great answer.
I think it will just be a loan. Out of those three, though, I see Dodo being the most likely if we sign a second one. I think
Yeah.
Singo was one of it's a Spence or Singo. Dodo is
Yeah.
the second option. And Molina, as well as he's doing, I haven't seen enough
Real links. Yeah.
real
Real.
links to kind of suggest that he's going to be the one.
Yeah, and to be fair though, Molina seems like the most wild card of the options because Molina, for me, like he's actually a really good striker of the ball and a really good finisher, and so he'd probably get you the goals and assists that we're probably looking for from that position. I don't know too much about his defensive ability, but I did really like the looks of Molina, and supposedly someone did say in the comments once he's actually really good friends with Romero, so that could be an interesting shout. But everybody, I am just going to get to the comments here. Kieran, he's been speaking absolute bars, so I think he just needs just to do something around the house or just take a quick break. So I am going to get to the comments here, and we are going to keep moving on. We're going to finish with the left-sided center back, then we'll be done, and I'm going to be headed on over to Sean's channel where you can find me over there. But Auntie Hyro's Tea Shop saying Spence can beat his man unlike Emerson, and that's probably the best attribute of Jed Spence is his ball carrying ability. He has exceptional dribbling technique. And if anybody has seen anything from his stats to his highlight package, whichever one you want to pick, he is a good dribbler. I think he skins past like 2 people a game, which is pretty impressive for a right wing back. And it's pretty impressive regardless what position you play in. But the fact that he's able to skin past 2 players a game is actually quite substantial. Mukiele is more of a center back and a right wing back disguise. Yeah, I agree with that, Marquise. And Mukiele, I would feel like if we were to sign him, would be more of a right-sided center back option. If anything, I don't see him being signed as a right wing back. He'd actually be a better version of probably Emerson Mukiele as a right wing back. Extremely defensive, but like that's about it. Like that's all he's really going to get you is just really good defensive sort of ability. But then not much more than that, if I'm going to be honest. But Mukiele certainly someone that we were linked with in the past at one stage. Before maybe we move on from right wing backs, Kieran, anything that you maybe felt like you missed or something like that? Apparently Fiorentina maybe are after Dodo, which really makes me sad because I actually feel like of those 3, he's actually secretly my favorite. He's not my first choice, but he is kind of my favorite. I've always just loved Dodo. Singo is probably similar to Jed Spence. I actually see why we went for Singo because he's exceptionally quick like Jed Spence is, and he's a really good dribbler like Jed Spence is. They're actually really similar to each other, Wilfred Singo and Jed Spence. Whereas Nahuel Molina, like you said, the one that really wasn't actually that real of links, but maybe it's just because he knows Romero, Argentinian international, just sort of kind of made sense, with Spurs' transfer history. But I don't know. I think it is going to be Jed Spence. And like you said, like with Emerson potentially staying and, Doherty likely not leaving, there's no way we're signing another right wing back on top of that unless one of them goes.
Yeah, see, I know you and David or Mr. Harris Irish Hotspur are big fans of Dodo. I like his name personally, just commentary.
It's
Dodo.
Dodo on the wing.
It'd be nice to hear on the commentary.
Especially in a Martin Tyler voice.
Just actually, because obviously I see a lot of comments on Spence. The one thing that I've seen some people just saying there, they don't necessarily think that Spence is a massive upgrade on Emerson.
I think they're really different players, though, so I don't even know if you could say that. That's the problem.
I think they're different players. Yeah. The one thing that I would say that Spence is massively going forward is better than Emerson. Not necessarily saying like, oh my God, he's a Kostic in terms of ball delivery, but the one thing that Spence does is if someone plays the ball into space and he's one-on-one with his man, he will drive down the wing or he'll drive to push past his man. Whereas sometimes we see Emerson, the ball goes out wide to his one-on-one, he stops the ball and does a step over or something, and then he's sitting there and passes the ball back, rather than getting the ball on, in the space, driving past his man, or at least trying to drive past his man, whereas Spence actually does that. And I think that's what you want to see, especially in Conte's system, when there's space and our wing backs are picking the ball up in spaces. You want to see him driving and going forward, or trying to beat players in that space, because that's what's going to cause defenses issues and kind of give them a little bit of fright, I suppose. If you're on the back foot and a wing back picks it up in space, one-on-one, and he's driving at you at speed, it's gonna make you a little bit unsettled, at least. Whereas sometimes Emerson, he gets the ball, takes too long on it, and then teams' defenses have settled a
He
little
almost
bit.
has to get the ball under control before he even, thinks about taking, the
He
guy
takes
on.
a touch control, another touch to look at his options, a step over, passes the ball backwards, and then the team's defense is set, and it's like, okay, well, they're in shape now. It's whereas at least Spence, he will go forward. Do I think he's like the biggest upgrade in the world? No, not currently, but again, like all those options, there's potential there.
Martin Walton, this comment is so funny. Apparently, we bid for Dodo last year before settling on Shutter Emerson, so he's definitely on Paratić's radar. Oh, I love it, Martin.
Someone said about Baku as well. They said, riddle me this, why should we sign Baku?
Oh my gosh, I didn't understand that actually until now. You're a lot smarter than me. Wow, everybody, loving the humor today, absolutely great. And I must say, Anti-Iris T-Shop is such a great name. Left-sided center back, last but not certainly least, probably the position we do see us spending the most money on. At least that's what the rumors are. But before we even answer this question, I have a very difficult question, not only for Kieran here, but as well as for the entire comment section, because this question has come from actually to bottom Duda before, and he actually brought up this sort of dilemma where should Spurs do whatever it takes to get Torres or Gvardiol or others out there? He also kind of asked me was, what happens if we can't get Pau Torres or Gvardiol? Because like you just said, Bastoni seems to be dead in the water. That just didn't work out. Pau Torres, perhaps that just doesn't work. Maybe he doesn't want to come to Spurs. Maybe the whole Gio swap deal just isn't suitable for the deal that we want. Gvardiol is probably too expensive and maybe might not even leave Leipzig actually this season. So what if we actually were left with nothing left? Our three top choices are actually out the door and are actually not available to us. What would you do in that situation, maybe, Kieran, if we didn't have our three top choices available? Players that I did write down that maybe Spurs could take a look at are the likes of Benoit Badiashile, Evan Ndika over from Frankfurt. He'd be a really smart choice. You also have the likes of, I think, Sven Botman still. And then there are probably a few more that you could go after too. But it is kind of an interesting dilemma where if we don't get our top three choices, what do you do? Do you kind of switch gears? Do you go after like a Dyer replacement? What do you do, Kieran, if you don't get your top three choices?
Yes, it's a weird one because
I could see this happening, that we don't get Pau Torres or Gvardiol either. It's difficult.
Yeah, I feel like Bastoni's one that we don't get through. Gvardiol is like a hard one because of the amount of time he has left in his contract, the amount of money that it's going to take. Pau Torres, I think he just wants to go to Man United if he goes to an English club.
He seems to love Man United. Yeah.
Last year, he was apparently reported, well, he's not interested in us because we don't have Champions League and Villarreal do, and he wants to play Champions League. That's what he wants to do. And then this season, it's like he's linked to Man United, but he's not interested in us, but they don't have Champions League. It's like, hang a minute, last year he didn't want to join us because he didn't have Champions League. This season he wanted to join United. So, it's such a weird one. Maybe he's just not keen on joining us.
Yeah.
It could be one where as well, maybe Giovanni Lo Celso is being a little snitch.
And Juan Foyth, maybe. And Juan Foyth, and Etienne Capoue, and a few others perhaps. They're
all players that necessarily didn't have the greatest of times at Tottenham. So, maybe those players are whispering in his ear. and
I think they
maybe,
are actually. I
you
actually
know.
definitely think they are because there's no way that they're giving raving reviews of
Well, I mean,
Spurs
yeah,
like when he's asked about them. Like no way
Serge
Gio is
Aurier's
telling
also
him he
gone there
loves Serge
recently
Aurier.
after being released by us.
That's actually that I never even thought about this. So probably everybody, if we don't get Pau Torres, the real reason is because there are probably 7 or 8 agents or spies inside the Villarreal dressing room. They're basically telling him that Tottenham is the worst club in the world probably to go to.
He's got
So
like
it explains.
five players in the starting 11 and bench telling him not to go. It's like, we got up
It's
against
actually
us.
funny. That's actually really hilarious. I never thought about that. So it seems like Pau Torres is not happening. There's your answer. Gavardiol, is it too expensive or is it just not happening? What do you feel like? I feel like Gavardiol, it's one or the other, either too expensive or not happening. And I think it's going to be one or the other. I don't see him even going to Chelsea, if I'm being honest. I feel like he's staying at
This
Leipzig.
is honestly, I would love for us to get Gvardiol, especially if we can't get Bastoni. Um, the big problem is I think it's going to be with him. It's going to be one of those. RB Leipzig want 70 million. Tottenham offer 70 million. Okay, no, we actually want 80 million in add-ons. It's like they're pretty much just going to move the price and shift the goalposts to, if they are to sell him, try and get the most amount of money possible to a point where we'll probably just go elsewhere because the goalposts are constantly being moved. Because I don't think Leipzig want to sell him, but if they can sell him, they will just try and constantly shift goalposts to get as much money as they can. So it's just one I think is just going to be a deal, not because it's too expensive, but purely because we'll probably just get frustrated and move on to someone else that's cheaper.
Yeah.
If we look, I mean, if we look at PERIŠIČ, he's only spent 50 million maximum with us at the moment. Most of his signings have actually been players that were picked up for, 20 to 30 million, or anywhere realistically 15 to 30 million. I don't think Vardio is worth 80 million at the moment, or 90 million, or 70 million. I think that he's at that price because he has potential to be at that price, and I think that's also going to hinder us.
Yeah.
In the long run. But
yeah. The other question here then is on my mind is like, are there others out there? And the others out there, at least in my head, would be the likes of Badiashile, Evan Ndika, and then maybe a Sven Botman. I know there's probably ones even deeper that you probably might be even better than those three, but those are like the three that I could see us going for because they're at least somewhat established. And then that's the thing. And someone even put in the comments like, one, you maybe don't have Gavardio or Pau Torres coming through or Bastoni. Does Conte really settle for like the 4th, 5th option? Like, does he really play that player over Ben Davies? Because Ben Davies still had a great season, and you would really think that this player needs to be an instant upgrade on Ben Davies in order for Conte probably even to trust the guy. So it is kind of an interesting dilemma, and that's why I think it's a really good question actually put out there. Where what happens if you don't get your 2 or your 3 top center back signings? I feel like you sort of switch gears. In fact, I feel like maybe they go after someone, maybe that's like a Dyer replacement. Maybe they go after like someone that is like a Delict or, someone that all of a sudden is like, probably going to move into the middle of the back three instead of the left sided center back. I just don't know. Like I could see us perhaps just switching gears and maybe just looking for a huge Eric Dyer sort of improvement or replacement instead. But I don't know. Like it's tough because how much more do you like settle for the 4th, 5th, 6th best left-sided center back option? Maybe you just wait till next season or something like that, to get Bastoni. Do we even have time to wait till next season to get Bastoni? I don't even know. That's the other problem.
Well, this is the thing. I think what will end up happening personally, not this isn't even my choice, but this is just what I feel will happen. Bastoni was probably first choice. That's probably not happening unless we're trying to get the other signings through the door,
Nicolas
saving
Alvetti,
as much money as possible.
About him.
Before throwing, the kitchen sink and everything we have into Bastoni. But I don't think that's realistic. Gvardiol, like I said, I think it'll be one of those ones where we'll look at, if we are seriously going to look at it, the goalpost will just be shifted to a price that's so high that we'll end up just going elsewhere. Where it's a thing of where we've offered, money in around the region we think is worth and they're asking for, and then they'll just shift the goalpost that will make it not possible. I don't think Pau Torres just wants to join us. yeah, I just have a feeling he just doesn't like us, but he just doesn't have the chest to say it. I have a feeling he just has an agenda against us. Maybe I'm completely
I
wrong.
really agree with that. I do agree with that. But
I
maybe
think
Bremer, do you see us then? Like, let's say, do we go after Gleison Bremer or something like that? Maybe that
I
guy
don't
could fit
think
the problem.
this is a thing, right? When we're linked to Bastoni, in my head, even though I knew that Bremer would never play left centre back for Inter, in my head I was like, that means we're getting Bastoni. Here we go. Like that's all I
Yeah.
need to hear. But I don't think so. He is going to be if he goes to Inter, he'll be the replacement for De Vrij
DeVry,
or
Skriniar,
yeah, Skriniar, who's obviously been linked. That's who's been linked away. Is Skriniar has
PSG.
been linked away? Sorry, we were having a conversation before, and I couldn't remember
That's
a
right.
player that was
Yeah.
linked away. That was Skriniar who was
Yeah, he's
linked.
a big money move to PSG apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's obviously been linked. So that's where he'll come in. He won't be playing left centre back. So I don't think Bremer will be an option for us at left centre back. If it's a central player or a right centre back player, then potentially, but a left centre back, I don't think that's really on the cards. Longley, as a potential, I think that's potentially one that would happen on a loan with an option
Yeah.
to buy. I think
Yep.
that's a type of deal that PERIŠIČ would go for. But if we can't get any of the three that are on screen, and we haven't got Bastoni, then I just have a feeling that we'll just wait till January. I just have a feeling that I don't think Conte will be the one of, okay, well, let's go and get this player who's 22, he's had one good season. Let's try and go and get him. Bastoni, I don't even think we'll look at Gvardiol that seriously. I think maybe just because he's a young talent, but I think Torres and Longley are probably the only other options. But yeah, again, just to reiterate, I don't think Bremer. I don't think Bremer left centre back. That will happen at all. It's not
I don't
really
think that's happening.
his position.
No, it's not his position, and you wouldn't get the Serie A center back of the year to play him in the position that he's not comfortable in. It just wouldn't really make sense. Maybe if we don't get those three, I could see us going for either Longley on loan and then actually getting Bremer as maybe a future Dyer sort of competition / replacement. Then after that, I could see us maybe getting, I don't know, like it's tough. It's tough. I actually feel like that January sort of signing is a good shout. Maybe we hold off on a left-sided center back and maybe just hope that Ben Davies can keep fit till January. Bring in a huge, big-sided, left-sided center back that we know is proven and ready to go. Maybe that is the best approach. And perhaps then you just get another center back that can just do the job for now, that can maybe play Dyer's position, maybe can play Davies too. I see us signing one center back this summer, but this is the big dilemma here, everybody. Is like, let's say you don't get Pau Torres. Let's say you don't get Gvardiol. Bastoni's done. Not happening. It just leaves you in a real dilemma. It leaves you in a real dilemma. But I must say, like, I don't really know if, Spurs are going to really spend the big money on someone like a Gvardiol. I feel like that, it wasn't supposed to be too long of a stream here, especially since Darius, couldn't join us and he probably would have had, plenty to say. But Kieran has absolutely smashed it here, everybody. So I must say, let's show him the support that he deserves on that channel. Let's Talk Spurs. I'm pretty sure he has some videos coming out. I embarrassingly and shamefully was supposed to be on one of his videos, but in fact, just realized that I forgot about it and I kind of had no excuse. So I'm going to be pretty shamelessly, plugging Kieran's channel because not only does he deserve it, but also because I didn't, come through to him last time that he wanted me to be on his channel. So he definitely deserves a bit of support. Everybody, smash that link, smash that big red button. He deserves it. He absolutely smashed it today.
Well, you actually helped me by not coming on the show because you actually refined an idea for a show that I had. I was like, oh, Jack can't do this, right? Well, I'll just have to plan it to do it just by myself then. And then I was like, oh, actually, I can do this now. Yeah. So you actually, without realizing, actually helped.
it's I'm glad that you saved me there because I did feel bad about it, but it seems like it went okay at the end of the day. But everybody, yeah, that's it. That's the end of the show. Please hit that like button on your way out. Please as well, if you are watching this back, maybe you just watch this back, not live, feel free to drop a super thanks. It's a great way to support the channel. Scout reports are coming out. I actually have a really good video coming out for you guys really soon. I'm actually took a look at David and I's Premier League predictions from like the very beginning of the season, and I'm doing a reaction video to that. It's taken a lot of editing, and it's it's a fun project to work on, because I think after the whole reacting to it, it was about like a 2-hour video, and I'm trying to like narrow it down to like a 30-minute sort of reaction video for you guys. So stay tuned for that one. I know you guys are really going to enjoy it. There's some pretty crazy predictions out there that we actually got right. But there's going to be plenty of live streams, plenty of content coming out on this channel. Please show Kieran the support he deserves on his. But yeah, everybody, that'll be all for now. As always, please hit that like button on your way out. But Kieran and I, we will be seeing ya. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.